Rob Manfred started talking about expansion. He started talking about geographic realignment. And you would think that he started giving you the ingredients for New Coke. You would think that he started telling you exactly what's going to happen in 2064's World Series and established a futures market. It was insane. The internet blew up when he was asked a question about expansion during his interview and asked about how that was going to work. And he said, I think the owners realize there's demand for Major League Baseball in a lot of great cities, and we have an opportunity to do something good around that expansion process. Well, that's page 1 of the expansion playbook. We've talked to you about that playbook before, and that playbook means that you have to get multiple cities all thinking that they are the ones who are going to get the expansion team, because then when they get their ownership groups together that are local, they'll get the biggest, wealthiest people wherever. Maybe it's the guy who it could be Kansas, Coca. Forget the Royals. We could do something in Kansas, and maybe David Booth will give money to expansion and not just to the Kansas team. So, of course, the commissioner at all times is going to talk about lots of choices, lots of demand, when in fact, baseball knows very well they're putting one team in the East, one team in the West time zone. They've got it narrowed down. Wink, wink, don't tell anybody. It's not official, Nashville. You do not have a team yet. Do not get cocky. There's a lot of people who want to bring a third team up into the New York area or right in the Connecticut area. Don't kid yourself. Montreal would love a team. You bet your sweet bipsters that could it be on the other side, Vancouver? Could it be Oakland? Could it be San Antonio? So many choices. So you keep all those choices alive, and then you talk about it. And then the commissioner said, if we expand, I love his choice of if. I would have said when, but let's not quibble. When means it's going to happen. If means it may not happen. If we expand, when? It provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign. And you would think that the commissioner just said something that was so epic, like it was newsworthy. Do you know when we started talking about geographical realignment? A decade ago. Strategic Planning Committee. I'm sitting in there for Jeffrey Loria, I was on the competition committee, on the diversity committee, international committee, whatever it was. Jeffrey's on the Strategic Planning Committee, and he couldn't attend that particular meeting. You sit in, which happened no more than 4 times per year, and the conversation is about expansion. 10 years ago. Getting to 32 teams has been something Major League Baseball has wanted to do for a decade. They're going to get to 32 teams, I promise you. And this was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, it's even more acute. Then, when you get to 32 teams, you have an opportunity then to put 8 divisions of 4 teams each. 1, expand the playoffs. 2, have 4 teams per division. 3, you already have the balanced schedule where every team is playing everybody else. So the geographic realignment makes perfect sense. 4, you get to, in a collective bargaining agreement, talk about expansion. You get to throw a bone to the players. Listen, you don't want to travel as much within your division? We get it. Not only do we have a balanced schedule, but we're going to change the divisions so we can take buses and not planes. We can take trains, maybe even automobiles. Obviously, I'm joking. It's always going to be chartered, comfortable planes, but fewer trips out of the time zone. All of these different things. Does that mean the Mets and Yankees would be in the same division? Yes. Does it mean the Dodgers and Angels would be in the same division? Yes. Does it mean the American League and the National League would go away? Yes. Does it mean that you would have one Major League Baseball unit of 32 teams and it would no longer be the American League Championship Series or the National League Championship Series, and that you'd have a chance of just having the Championship Series? Well, that wouldn't make sense. What would you call it? The semifinals? Right now, you've got a sponsor for the ALCS and the NLCS. It's part of the broadcast deals where one network gets the NLCS, one network gets the ALCS, and then one network gets the World Series. But all of the broadcast deals are up, and they're all going to be renegotiated for 2029. Wait a second. Can you renegotiate with way more playoff inventory and change the way the playoffs are done to add even more excitement to what would be the month of October? Can you, at the same time, in a new collective bargaining agreement, reduce the number of games from 162 to 154, but increase the number of playoff teams and increase the length of the playoffs, the payoff that the players get during the playoffs? Hold on, I'm coming up with the new CBA in my head from a decade ago. I understand why this is getting so much attention, because you're saying to yourself, this would be such a big change, and I don't like change because I'm a baseball fan. And one of the things about being a baseball fan is that I have to be a traditionalist, and I've got to take every little adjustment, every little change, and I've got to poo-poo it and say it's wrong. Forget the fact that stuff happens in football and in basketball all the time, but in baseball, we're sacred, baby. Do you think that getting rid of the pitchers hitting and putting in the universal DH, do you think that that is unrelated? Do you think that umpires no longer wearing AL and NL on their cap is unrelated? Do you not recall that umpires used to be either National League umpires or American League umpires? All you got to do is look at their cap from years ago, and now they're not. Everything that we've been doing in the sport, back when it was a we and not a they, now it's a they, it was a we for a very long time. Everything we were doing was heading toward 32. Everything we were doing was heading toward geographic realignment. Everything we were doing was to make it make sense. No, Atlanta in the Western Division, that was a piece of brilliance. I mean, many of you may not remember that, but it used to be. Do you know that Rob Manfred talked about this way before the Little League Classic last night, when everyone's pretending this is like epic new news? Oh my God, we finally got something out of the commissioner. In 2023, that's 2 years ago, Rob said, for there to be serious talk about realignment, it would be done in the context of expansion. You almost have to talk about some realignment in the context of expansion. If you went to 32, you'd at least have to talk about getting geographic. That's 2 years ago. Now, people may not remember what he said. Maybe he doesn't remember what he said, but I assume he remembers exactly what he said because he's got the same PR people who would go up to him and say, here's the messaging we want to do about this, because there's always messaging that the commissioner has on myriad topics, because you never know what the broadcaster is going to bring up when you agree for the commissioner to be interviewed. Wink, wink. You never know what the questions are going to be asked. Wink, wink. You never know how to practice and how to make sure that you've got the answers you want to get out there. Wink, wink. It's like a mystery. You need Shaggy to figure it out. No, you don't. You don't even need the A team. You just need to remember what your message points were, and Rob Manfred remembered them perfectly. And for whatever reason, it's picked up this amount of speed or virality. Now, that's not a word. Virality, vitality, utilitarianism. I can't think of the word. It's picked up. It's become viral. Do you remember when the Brewers and the Astros had to switch leagues by chance? Anyone remember that? I was thinking the other day, Coca, when Jim Crane bought the Astros from Drayton McLean, and the condition of that purchase was for the Astros to move to the American League. I don't know if you remember that, Coca. And you'll go back, and if you look at what year the Astros moved, it will be right around when Jim Crane bought the team. And it was done because then, remember when Interleague was happening and you needed to figure out how to get Interleague played when it was only 2 weeks in the season. And nowadays, Interleague is played every day because there's an uneven number of teams. Does anyone remember any of this? All right, stay with me. Going to 32 teams has to happen. Having 15 teams in each league doesn't work. Having 32 teams works. Having 8 division works perfectly. Having 8 division winners works perfectly. And you know what else that would do? What's the thing that teams complain about? Do you remember the whole thing like during last year's playoffs and every year's playoffs when teams that work all year long to win a division by a lot and have the best record, and then they end up losing in the division series because the teams that have to play in the wild card who happen to win the wild card, even though it's dicey to win a wild card round, or even when it was just one game, now it's best 2 out of 3, that team ends up sharp and hot. And all of a sudden you've got these really good teams losing. And all of a sudden you had teams saying, I actually don't want the bye. Is there a way that I can possibly get rid of the bye? Can I opt out of the bye? Remember that talk? Can I not only opt out of the bye, but how about if you reward me by choosing my playoff opponent? Never going to happen, ever. Mark my words, it will never happen that baseball will have a team choose who it wants to play in the playoffs as a reward. There's not one GM or one team president. There is not one GM or one team president who would ever agree to a system where you have to choose who you play because you can bet that you'd lose to that team and then you'd look like an absolute fool, if not an imbecile. So, what the commissioner did last night, this has been not just on the horizon. This is so close, you don't even need your nearsighted spectacles. You don't need your telescope. You just practically need your readers, the 175ers from the drugstore. That's it. It's coming soon. Now, you know, as a Nothing Personal fan, that all this talk of expansion, let's say it together. What are they waiting for? What are they waiting for, Vegas? What are they waiting for, Tampa? Oh, they're waiting. Yes, I've seen the pictures. I've seen the pictures of the stadium in Vegas and the cranes and the rebar. I've seen it all. I've seen the permits. I've read the articles. Yes, thank you, everybody. Yes, I've seen that Tampa may have an agreement. Haven't seen the stadium plans there quite yet. Haven't seen exactly where that's going to go. Have you? They can't announce expansion until Tampa starts giving up public money to the new owner, can they? Nope. They can't talk about expansion until they know for sure that they got that Vegas stadium built and open, right? You've got this.